In episode 8, Jen heads down to the police precinct and wants to have a conversation with Perez about getting Ben freed. She thought they had an understanding after they talked in the car privately, but apparently not, and she's not happy about it. She tries to blackmail Detective Perez because, after all, Perez knows what happened to Steve Wood, but that doesn't go all that well either. Perez pulls Jen outside to have a bit of a more private conversation and explains to her that she shouldn't be barging in there making veiled threats. Perez tells Jen that Ben isn't going to do all this hard time that she thinks he is. After all, he's a white male in Laguna for a DUI hit and run. But she also tells her that Ben should be the least of her concern because they found DNA on Steve's body. And while they don't know whose DNA it is, it's not going to take long for Jen's DNA to probably show up. Jen asks Perez, "What do we do?" And Perez says, "There's no more we. Not anymore. You're on your own with this." And gets up and walks away. When Jen gets home, she fills Judy in on exactly what Perez told her, and they start trying to talk this out, figure out what they can do. One of the things she thought of is just turning herself in, thinking that maybe if she just owned up to it, she would get some leniency. But Judy says, "Yeah, I don't think it works like that." And now Jen's worried that she could have a nervous breakdown. Judy's suggestion is just to stay calm. After all, they don't know what they found, and the FBI could have nothing. But the way that Jen looks at it, yeah, they could have something, though, and then what? Jen really wants to get a lawyer, and Judy's suggestion is just to go on vacation. Jen thinks that's crazy, just running away. Especially considering that Judy has to go back for her scans. Judy, however, says that she can just do that next week. The reality of the situation is the oncologist has called multiple times to schedule the scans, and Judy has just sent them straight to voicemail. She doesn't really have any interest in doing the scans. But Judy is pretty dead set on this whole vacation plan. She tells Jen that Steve has a place in Mexico and they can just go there. This does sound like a nice idea, and Jen starts thinking that maybe a little bit of a vacation could do them both some good. She then has to get ready because she's showing Karen's open house that day. The open house doesn't go as expected because Karen actually shows up and she's really emotional. But one person who shows up at the open house is Agent Moranis. He didn't show up because he's looking for a house. He showed up to talk to Jen. Jen tells Moranis to just wait until after the open house and then they can head on over to her place and have this conversation. And they walk in to find Judy, whose bags are already packed. And Judy's as surprised to see Moranis as Jen was, although Judy is way better at playing it off. He just has some simple questions like what was the relationship with Steve Wood, because after all, she was his real estate agent for a little bit. He also has questions as to how much money the condos went for. It seems like he's starting to buy into the whole Greek mafia having an influence on everything. But he also wants to know why she had a parking ticket for just outside the very park where they found Steve's body. And it's Judy who walks in and saves the day by saying they were up there for a girls' weekend. And it wasn't just them, it was with their buddy Jeff. As Moranis is sucking down a scone, he seems to buy the whole story. But once he leaves, Jen is freaking out a little bit. I mean, they did say that they had a girls' weekend with Jeff, and Jeff wasn't there, and Jeff doesn't know anything about it. She then starts freaking out even more when she can't find the mug that she was drinking. She starts getting so convinced that Moranis took it as evidence, looking to get her DNA and her fingerprints. They start thinking about what they're going to do about this, and as Judy says, we check the dining room, Jen says at the same time, we kill Glenn. They can make it look like an accident. They just take those pills that Judy stole from the hospital, they crush a bunch of them up, and they put them in a scones recipe and feed it to him. All of it will look like an overdose. But as Jen is figuring out this master crime, Judy finds the mug, so no reason to kill Glenn. They then have to go make sure Jeff is on board with this whole corroboration. Lucky for them, Jeff has a terrible memory. He's lied so much that he just has trouble keeping his story straight. So when they feed him the story about going up for this girls' weekend, he believes it all. In fact, they even spin it so that he thinks they're doing him a favor with the FBI. That if the FBI comes calling, the girls will be the one having his back, not the other way around. Right before they leave, Jeff does tell Jen that even though she asked him to delete that footage from the cloud, he actually never did. He's been meaning to tell her, but it just slipped his mind, and now he just remembered. Karen reset the cloud password, so he never got a chance to do it. So that footage still exists, which is another thing they have to deal with. They're going to have to figure out a way to delete it. That night, they do so by heading over to Karen's and trying to be a, quote, friend to her in this time of mourning. She's still pretty hung up on Jeff. She really just sits in her safe room looking at old photos of him. So the girls convince her to delete the entire cloud for the past year. Just get rid of it all. She needs to move on with her life, but she doesn't know that by deleting everything, She's actually deleting that video that they want gone. They convince Karen to do it. They get her external hard drive, and then they finally head home. The next day, Judy finally decides to call the hospital and schedule her scan. As she's doing that in the other room, Jen is trying to sign her up for a clinical trial. In the middle of it, though, the doorbell rings, and it's Karen. She tells Jen that she found something disturbing on her camera. Right away, Jen thinks that it's going to be her, but it's not. It's actually Moranis. He was going through Jen's trash. He grabbed the bag that she threw out that night, the bag of the ashes, and he took it with him. Karen doesn't know that Moranis actually is an FBI agent. She just thinks that he's a creep who was looking at her house. But Jen now knows the severity of the situation. She knows it's only a matter of time before Moranis connects the dots, and she has to do something about it. So the next day, she shows up at Moranis' hotel room, and she's got a whole mess of scones for him. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.